Stars and Planets of YouTube. It's me, Galactic Star. This is a new kind of setup for me to, be doing something like this. And I have no clue what I'm doing. So that's pretty cool, you know? I'm not gonna start quite yet because I got some food and I'm hungry. So for now, I guess I'll turn on to Facecam and eat from here. And then I'll go wash my hands before I start building. I got some Five Guys. Hello, viewer. I would think that this is probably Hayden, and you're just gonna nap with my stream on. Or maybe it's someone cooler. No offense, Hayden. Don't mean to be too mean to you. Oh. Hello. Who's watching? I want to know. Every time someone starts watching, I say something, and they're gone. Pretty cool. I talk more, but I'm eating, sorry. Trying to get things going as quick as I can. I'm almost done. So I should be able to attempt to start building, at least opening stuff up, you know, pretty soon. Wow. Burger's messy, but it was bussin'. Should have said that. Would have been great. Could have made it a short or something. Maybe got me 5,000 views again. Probably not. Oh, I just got some fries. Let me know if you're enjoying this content of me just eating. I appreciate some feedback. Well, this is Hayden. He probably just has it muted though. Because she decided to go take a little nappy nap. She's probably posting in Discord I'm streaming. Hey. Nope. I guess they left. My feelings have been hurt. Well, if someone here is from the Discord server I'm in, or any Discord server, if you can post that I'm streaming, I would appreciate the extra views. Especially once I get going, because I'll probably need help. What? Okay. Now it's time to get down to business. Sort of. God dang it. Ugh. Now I'm gonna set this up again. Let's see if it'll just pick up. Did it? No, still it's frozen. Okay. Now I gotta fix this. Are you not in live mode? You should go in live mode. That'd be pretty cool. Camera. What don't you want to do with camera? Be my camera. I guess it's going back to the face cam until I figure this out. Be camera. Stop it. Be camera. Camera's not being camera. Tell camera to be camera, guys. What did they do? There it is. Camera be camera. Now it should work. Now, no. Now it should work. There we go. Okay, now I get a drink, wash hands, and start opening some boxes. Okay, I gotta get a little knife. Okay, got a little knife. It's just stuff I seen that I was told I needed. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But that's okay. Gotta learn somehow. Let's see if I got some zip ties. So simple. Zip ties. Let's go. We only get dubs here. My home slices. Which mic is it? No, okay, so it's coming from that microphone. That's okay. I'm gonna cheat because I'm going to have a video.
A convenient and free static safe service. If you want to power on.
It's probably open case, so I can put stuff in it too. So I'll put items on before. This is my water cooler. I got some thermal paste and my GPU. I got a bunch of fans, some more fans, my motherboard, which I gotta keep up here, my power source, the processor, some SSD, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and in here is an HDD of, I believe, 12 terabytes. Yes, 12 terabytes. Pretty cool. That's a lot. Well, it's becoming a lot less a lot, but still a lot. So, it's okay. I believe this is the first part it says I needed. Yeah. I should open you up. So stick stuff in here as needed. This side is where I put the SSD in. If I can figure out how to open it again. Do I have to take these all the way out? I don't think I did. only to get it here. So might as well open it right away. That's not a door. But I don't know. Okay. So, there's all stuff in here. Stuff you on the floor. So it's got a fan up here, fan up here. This thing's about, I can't see it right now. And then it's got 2 SSD slots. I believe that's what these ones are. Yeah. And then these are all the wires for the top side components. And I assume one of these is for the fan that's up there, up here. This thing has a lot of spots for fans. I don't know exactly where all of them go, but I'll figure that out as I go, I suppose. This whole thing's supposed to open up somehow. I'm just gonna stick something in there. What? So I should probably just get everything off right away if I can. So make things easier eventually. But I'm not sure. Ba-ba. Well, I suppose I'll get on to this bit.
On your system before you put it in the case, which I highly recommend, you'll want to use the box. It pulls double duty by letting
They got little spots, okay. Not empty bags. Stand up this way. Should. Scavenge. Display port. Change radar. I get 2 monitors out of this. Let's see.
you slot in a GPU, which wouldn't be possible if the motherboard was flat on a desk or anti-static mount. Now, your motherboard may have one of 2 socket types as of today. The quickly vanishing pin grid array, or PGA.
Okay, so then I'm supposed to take GPU and put it in right away. I ripped the box. Good for you. We'll keep this. It seems like I'll need it. This is not going to work in this case. That kinda sucks if that's the case. I get it. Case. It's like this. If the just gotta keep you off the box. It's almost come off. I don't want any of this junk falling on the floor because that would be no good. Let's see.
We'll start by unboxing our motherboard and placing it on top of its box, a convenient and free static safe surface. If you want to power on your system before you put it in the case, which I highly recommend, you'll want to use the box. It pulls double duty by letting you slot in a GPU, which wouldn't be possible if the motherboard was flat on a desk or
Where's the GPU go? I don't know. I've never done this before. Will I figure it out? Potentially. I hope so. So is that won't be chill. I don't need your knife because it's got a little tabs to hold on. That's good. Good. Smells nice. Smells new. SSD code. I don't know. I do not know. So this is for the RAM. This says something about SSD here. Be nice if I had people in chat to tell me what to do. What this is for? I don't know. I do not know. How this gonna be slotted out there? I feel like this is. This one? I don't think it is. How do I put this on? put this on? Does anybody know? Because I don't. I do not.
It's
No.
double duty by letting you slot in a GPU. Highly recommend. You'll want the
I mean, he's got a different setup on his motherboard than this one is. But. This part slapped on his. That's first mounted. Is it? Does it? No, I don't think it does. Where does it go? Where does it go? It's going here. No, that won't fit. I think you can see it. No, that won't fit either. This is a little cover, okay. That help a little bit, not having that cover on. Physically. This one. Seems like it would fit here. Maybe you can see it. It's here. It doesn't fit here. I don't want to break anything though, because this stuff's expensive, you know? Why does it not just say, or am I just blind and don't see? So those do go in there. Yeah, it seems like that would lock that in. Maybe it does go there. I don't know. I feel like that's the right spot. But you know, I don't want to just push it in there and break it. Because that would be horrible. Breaking stuff. No, that should be right there. So that would line up with the other junk. You know? I think that this is the place that it should be. Okay, I just didn't have the stuff pushed right. It sits in here kind of loose there. Okay. Probably got I got screwed in with some here. Okay, let's see what the next bit of the video is, I guess.
used box. It pulls double duty by letting you slot in a GPU, which wouldn't be possible if the motherboard was flat on a desk or anti-static mat. Now, your motherboard may have one of two socket types as of today. The quickly vanishing pin grid array, or PGA, where the pins are all on the CPU, or the near ubiquitous LAN grid array, or LGA, where the pins are on the motherboard. Why is this important? Because if your motherboard is LGA, you need to inspect the pins before you do anything else. If you bought the board at a brick and mortar store, then they'll often get you to do this step at the store to cover their butts in case you come back with bent pins, because this is something that's typically not covered by the manufacturer's warranty. To do this on an Intel socket, Push down on the retention latch and pull it out away from the socket. If you're dealing with a
I ain't no professional though, but it looks good. Yeah. And that just comes open. Don't push it open. I don't think it would hurt. Open sesame. Pile of boxes. Big box. Needs instructions. Not me. I do, but you get my point. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, back to video. Let's see.
a high-end desktop socket, there could be a secondary latch for the retention mechanism that comes out the same way, and they'll only open in the correct order. When you ease up on the clip, it should want to spring upwards. This is good. Pull it upwards all the way, and the retention clip will come up, revealing the socket beneath. Don't worry about the plastic cover plate for now.
For AMD Threadripper and EPIC SB3 drive sockets, you'll need to undo these three screws in order with the included torque wrench, and then let the retention clip flip open. The CPU's carrier will need to come up next, which you can easily do by pulling up on these steps. Finally, remove the plastic cover plate to reveal the socket beneath. For Intel's high-end server and workstation Xeon motherboards using higher pin counts like 3647 or 4677, there is no retention mechanism, simply a plastic cover plate. The cooler then screws directly down into the metal around the socket, with the CPU already clipped to the cooler. With the pins visible, it's easier to spot damage if you angle the motherboard so the pins are reflecting light directly back at you, and rotate it around to make sure that everything looks even. Any pins that are bent will need to be dealt with before you go any further. You can refer to this video we did on LGA repair here, but the short version is you may need to use a magnifying glass and a pair of fine point tweezers or similar instrument to try and straighten it back out. Fresh out of the factory, a motherboard shouldn't have bent pins at all, but if you bought open boxed or used, it's a possibility.
Once you're satisfied your pins are okay, it's time to unbox your CPU. For most CPUs, the outer box is expendable unless you want to put it on display. But make sure you take care of the inner plastic clamshell that actually contains the processor. Not only do you not want to drop it under any circumstances, you'll also want to keep it for future in case you need to RMA or sell your CPU to someone else. Regardless of your CPU, you want to avoid touching any of the exposed gold contacts, be they on the flat underside of an LGA CPU or the fragile pins of a PGA CPU. We'll get to those, but first we're going to keep going with consumer-style LGA. Line your CPU up with the socket. Usually there will be a triangular arrow or dot or other indicator to help you figure out which orientation is correct. Intel, for instance, has notches on the side of its CPUs that only allow you to insert a compatible CPU and only in the correct orientation, so you can line up with those. I like to line up the bottom edge of the CPU with the bottom edge of the socket as a bit of an anchor point, then gently lower it in. Give it a little wiggle once it's down to make sure it's seated completely before closing the retention mechanism and pushing the latch down. If it feels a little stiff and creaky, that's okay. It's supposed to. And then the plastic socket cover is going to kind of pop off. That's normal too. Keep going until you can hook the latch back into place, then store the socket cover somewhere safe, like in the motherboard box. You'll need this in case you need to RMA your board or sell it later on. The process is the same for AMD's motherboards that use LGA sockets like AM5. Because LGA sockets have a retention bracket that can sometimes affect cooler mounting, and thus cooler performance, some builders have taken to using CPU contact frames like this one. Be forewarned though, these may void your motherboard's warranty for what I hope are fairly obvious reasons, so check that first and proceed with caution. To use a contact frame on either Intel or AMD, you first
I think. Hello. I don't know what this little sticker's for though. It's like a little chip. Yeah, I think it's just a little sticker. Just shove it on there. Okay. And then this would be the top side. Okay, that's it. Oh no! Just kidding. That's okay. That's supposed to happen, as I've learned. Thanks, Linus. Okay. Now I go to the next step.
first need to remove the existing retention mechanism, which can be a little scary even for veteran builders since it completely exposes the socket. Carefully unscrew the retaining screws, or replace your CPU. Take this time to make sure that your pins are all straight. It should be as easy as looking at it from two different angles to make sure that you can see through very thin position, making for a very difficult repair job. So make with LG APUs so that there's a check your pins in one way, and it will drop right in. So if you encounter any resistance at all, do not push. Check your pins, and line it up, and try again. A few more seconds of your time now is worth it compared to hours for totally matched pins. Once the CPU is in place, I like to press down on it to prevent it from moving while I close the lever.
Bite out usually for which socket on the CPU base socket guided the line at the top really until you put the place you easy for intimidate, and then the rolls and zaps into the cured. Once you do triangle, you use socket. The post 4677 socket for CPUs 4 lanes right. Low. Need golden. Then gently make sure it's triangle on the 77. We'll come back to the cooler in a minute.
First, we want to deal with RAM, because depending on your cooler, it could be anywhere from a little bit to a lot easier to install it now rather than later. Unbox your RAM and lay it out in front of you. Depending on your motherboard and your priorities, you might have anywhere from 1 stick to 12 or 16 sticks of memory, or even more. The ultimate authority for which slots to use will be your motherboard manufacturer, so check your manual to be sure. You never know when some engineer is going to get a fun new idea for how things are supposed to be color-coded. But we'll go over the most common configurations anyway. If you look at your motherboard closely, you'll usually see silk-screened labels for the memory channels. On ASUS, for example, DIMM A1, DIMM B1, DIMM A2, and so on. The letter here indicates which channel the slot is connected to. So, 2 sticks in dual channel, you'd install each module in the same numbered slot, one in channel A and the second in channel B. Dual channel. Now, we mentioned before that dual channel operation is usually best for consumer PCs. But if your motherboard has only 2 RAM slots, you might have opted for a single large stick today in order to leave room for an upgrade later, rather than going for 2 smaller sticks adding up to the same capacity that will both need to be replaced if you upgrade. This is a totally valid strategy, though you should bear in mind that some newer CPUs in particular will give up a significant amount of performance running in single channel mode.
Okay. So there is A1 and A2. Let's see, keep them in the same channel. So A1. okay, that's okay.
If you're willing to make that trade-off, just make sure to install your single module in the slot that is nearest to the CPU, or in the one indicated by your motherboard manual.
With 2 sticks of RAM. In order to channel, our can in principle be exact bands. With this
This will happen with DDR itself, so line up till you feel ready to place any more memory orientations by note. For some motherboards with RAM on both sides of the CPU socket, one side will often be
If your build has an M.2 SSD, now's the time to install it. It's pretty common for the slots to be hidden under heat sinks, so if you don't see any, you'll want to check your motherboard manual to figure out where these slots might be hiding. Some M.2 slots only support NVMe, while some only support SATA, and some support both. Your motherboard manual, again, will help you to identify them. So if your SSD is SATA, you should purposely avoid an NVMe slot that's labeled as going to your CPU to leave it open for a faster NVMe SSD later on down the road. But it really shouldn't matter as long as the slot supports SATA. On the flip side, if your SSD is NVMe, you should avoid slots labeled as going through the chipset or PC.
Okay. This little bit says it's an SSD. I got a little screwdriver over here. Let's see if this will open it. Or did my brother take it? My brother has it. Gosh, dang it. No, it's empty. Okay. Teeny tiny screwdriver. It's actually the right size. Oh, okay. I took that off. Got a little sticker on it that says remove for use. I have no clue if the microphone's really even picking me up that good. So if it's not, I'm sorry. Okay, tiny little screw to hold you down. If I could get it in here, finish this situation that's happening now. Oh, it is a magnetic feature. Sweet, makes it easy. There we go. Screw it in. Okay. Now I peel off this sticker. And I put the little heat sink back on. Back on. Let's see what it is.
Yeesh. Because these could bottleneck the drive's performance compared to a CPU connected slot. If you have multiple NVMe SSDs and don't really have a choice, you'll want to use the CPU M.2 slot for the faster SSD if applicable. Thankfully, because M.2 slots have the same installation instructions regardless, your motherboard on the appropriate being screwy, fully line up the SSD tab on the M.2 two notches, but your CI Express lanes rather be on the bottom of the heatsink, with the fins facing out. In order to use that, shouldn't be
About 30 degrees or so relative to the slot and line it up. It should slip in easily with a little bit of pressure, and once you can no longer see the pins, it should stand up freely on its own. From here, it's easier if you get the tiny Phillips screw on the tip of a magnetic screwdriver before going any further, because you'll need to push the SSD down flat against the standoff we installed earlier and hold it there while you screw it into place. Now you want to be careful with this screw. It's very thin, very fragile, and very easy to misplace. It also offends easily. Line it up and twist it counterclockwise until you feel a little click, then start turning it clockwise to tighten it.
Oh.
It only needs to be snug enough
Well,
that the SSD no longer moves when
that's
you let
okay.
go. Now you can put your motherboard heatsink back on, if applicable. Now there are other ways to install an M.2 SSD, including on a PCI Express card or ASUS DIMM.2 interface. And these are conceptually similar to connect as I can align your is the same as any other expansion card, and we'll take care of that later.
For now, it's time to move on to your cooler. If you've got an all-in-one liquid cooler, this step will be just installing the appropriate bracket. But if you have an air
Okay. Cooler. Cooler. Let's work on that. Okay.
be installed now. Most coolers use similar mounting mechanisms in theory, but often the actual install will be pretty different. For air coolers, mounts like Noctua's Secufirm system are among the easiest for consumer processors. No matter what socket, it consists of two pieces of metal with screw-down posts on the top side that screw into a backplate. There are spacers fitted to make sure the vertical alignment with the socket is just right for optimal mounting pressure, and the cooler itself screws down into these screw posts right here for a secure connection. Let's see what that looks like in practice. On Intel consumer systems, Noctua provides a down into it allows it functions on case. In most situations, then want your cooler to blow air towards the
Hey,
rear
that's
of
my
the chassis.
case.
So you would install these bars laterally. Then screw cooler to blow air towards the rear of the chassis. So you would install these bars laterally. Then screw them down with these reverse thumb screws. On AMD, because a backplate is included, the spacers simply fit over the parts of the backplate that stick up through the motherboard, which means that your first order of business is to remove these plastic clip adapters that come standard on AMD boards. Make sure you keep those, by the way, because some coolers do require them, and losing them is pretty bad for resale value. Then, your mount.
Okay. Yeah, I got those little plastic plates that you was just talking about. Are these something which no. They're different screws. Like what? I'm looking at the wrong screw again. I want Stop me. I don't like that. I want to put a good amount of pressure on these. It's a little spooky. They're all loose here. Stop hitting stuff. I mean, they're just heat sinks, I guess. Could be worse. Not loose enough. Wait. Should have probably watched more before I started doing that.
Mounting bars go on and get screwed down in the same way. Now, because AMD's cooler holes are asymmetrical, there are two sets of mounting bars, one long and one short. The short bars are what most people will use. coolers, as these are installed laterally so the cooler can exhaust air towards the rear of the case.
What? What? Do I just skip to the liquid cooling part of the video? Maybe. I'll try that.
Once it's screwed into place, you're ready to go.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled broadcast with a quick word from Seasonic.
One side is spaced narrow, and the other side is spaced wide. But that mechanism is so simple that we're getting ahead of ourselves. We need thermal compound first. Many coolers come with some compound pre-applied, and feel free to use that if you like. It's usually fine, and it's easier than cleaning it off to apply something different. But if you want something fresh or you're remounting an old cooler, that's where isopropyl alcohol and coffee filters or paper towels come in. If it is an old cooler, I'd recommend doing a dry wipe first, but if not, wet the bottom of the filter or paper towel with isopropyl alcohol.
Those connectors. With that done, we're finished with our motherboard for now. But now is also an excellent time to power on our system and make sure that everything's working while it's easy to access. For you air jockeys, you get to relax while the all-in-one liquid cooler users awkwardly hook their coolers up now outside the case, only to uninstall them again once they're done, and reinstall them yet again when everything is inside the case. Yes, it is a pain, but it's a small price to pay for not having to tear everything down if it doesn't work. Now, most liquid coolers simply have a bracket that twists on and off depending on the socket that you're using, and then screws straight down onto the mounting bracket that you installed earlier. If that's you, make sure you liquid coolers simply have a bracket that twists on and off depending on the socket that you're using, and then screws straight down onto the mounting bracket that you off depending on the socket that you're using.
What mounting
and then
bracket?
screws straight.
I don't think this came with a mounting bracket. Okay, this thing is the mounting bracket. It's already got the thing on, just stringing the jig. Right. Yes. No? No. So it's got additional ones. This is the one I came with, but that's not the one I need. I need this one, I believe. Let's just mount to these. I don't think so. Just mount directly up to it. I'm so confused. Am I missing something? Not really, but I'm missing anything. Let's see. How's this go in here? Won't fit like the other stuff does. Doesn't line up with the holes. Why doesn't it line up? Does it move? I don't think so. What's going on? Does this just go directly onto here? Perhaps. Perhaps not. so confused. What's happening? Was I supposed to buy different mounting brackets? Was I? I wasn't told. Maybe this do just work. Maybe just go. At least I don't understand. No, that's not good. Those not good. We don't understand. It's line up. If they don't line up. Go on. Ay, ay, ay. Dios mío. No. There's the stone box. Nothing in the box. Nothing in the box. Why is it no frame? Why, oh why? What's going on?
We'll take care of that later.
For now, it's time to move on to your cooler. If you've got an all-in-one liquid cooler, this step will be just installing the appropriate bracket. But if you have an air cooler or a CPU block for a custom loop, both of these will be installed now. Most coolers use similar mounting mechanisms in theory, but often the actual install will be pretty different. For air coolers, mounts like Noctua's Secufirm system are among the easiest for consumer processors. No matter what socket, it consists of two pieces of metal with screw-down posts on the top.
What? You know what? This is a different cooler than the one that I was originally going to get. So that's probably explains why I don't have a bracket. So what am I going to do? That's kinda dumb. They don't give me bracket. They should give me bracket. Why buy extra bracket if it should come with bracket? It makes no sense. Why you do that? Why? I don't know. I do not know why it do that. I'm gonna learn to prepare better. This is crazy, so cray. Ay ay ay. What do? What do me do? Hmm? Mm-hmm. Huh. Hmm. Why? Ugh. Tell me why nothing but a heartache. Tell me why nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never really say I want it that way. Me. Ay, ay, ay. Ah. Did I misplace it? I don't think so. Water. 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 Yeah, okay, sometimes have a thingamajig. That's a thingamajig that it comes with that works. But this is a different thingamajig. So this thingamajig don't work, right? Or do work. They don't work. Yeah, this thingamajig don't work. Why are you small? If it were there, it would. If it there, it would fit. But it's not there, so it don't fit. Well. Well, well. But it should. It says AMD on it. And that's what this thing says, right? Say down there. You're not what I need. What is this? AMD sleeve. I saw that. Where'd it go? Is it over on this side maybe? No. Look at there it is. That's what I need. AMD5 or AMD? No. I don't know. Socket AM5. AM5. This way. Is it just place on top? Yeah. Just place it on top. Okay, I figured it out. Now. No, my friend, no, never mind. Okay, and then it's long side down. Down. passed the hurdle. Now me professional. I'm gonna look at this one. Yeah, thumb screw goes on top. I can be smart. Okay, well, screw for now. Apparently I gotta take this all apart later. Okay, let the strunk into the little big. Okay. You guys can be set aside. Shouldn't be needed. We'll go over there, I guess. Yeah. figure out how to get these off. That does not help. So just wait till a week. This part is I don't know. Oh, try how pliers I wish. Let's see if that can junk. Uh-huh. That's okay. That's good. This is really that's once I don't know what that's for. Got all these panels on. Okay, let's, I guess, move on.
Side, screw into a back.
In the
There are
video.
spacers fitted to make sure the vertical alignment with the socket.
Thermal compound sorted, just bolt down your cooler. For tower-style coolers, you'll first want to unclip the fan from the cooler like so in order to access the
Those connectors. With that done, we're finished with our motherboard for now. But now is also an excellent time to power on our system and make sure that everything's working while it's easy to access. For you air jockeys, you get to relax.
Oh.
So while the all-in-one liquid cooler users awkwardly hook their coolers up now outside the case, only to uninstall them again once they're done, and reinstall them yet again when everything is inside the case. Yes, it is a pain, but it's a small price to pay for not having to tear everything down if it doesn't work. Now most liquid coolers simply have a bracket that twists on and off depending on the socket that you're using, and then screws straight down onto the mounting bracket that you installed earlier. If that's you, make sure you tighten them down in an X pattern, going a little on each corner one by one until none can go any further. There are
Okay, we'll tighten them down even more. They did just finger pick them. Okie dokie. Artichoke.
Fortunately, some vendors, Cooler Master and newer Corsair units that use clips on AMD systems instead of screwing into the backplate, and this is where those standard AMD plastic clip things come in. It's inelegant in the modern age, but it ensures that coolers remain compatible backwards and forwards to an absolutely ludicrous degree, so you can't really blame AMD for this. Slide the clips through the holes on the block, start the retaining thumb screws enough to keep them from falling out, and then put the whole thing in place and make sure the tabs were captured by the clip. Then, while holding the clips in position, tighten it all down. It's going to feel really delicate, but stick with it and eventually it'll all be okay. Consider this a practice run for when you don't have so much room to maneuver. As for those of you who just have a water block and nothing else right now, well, you could fill up your loop on the bench, and that is what I would recommend, but if all you want to do is verify that it's working, you can slap the block on without water in it and power on for just long enough to see the post screen, about 10 to 20 seconds. It should be fine. Let's get into what that looks like.
Step 7. Pre-build test, aka the part where it going horribly wrong is a good thing, because if you don't find out now, you'll definitely find out later. In order to do a quick test, you'll need 3 things. Your power supply with accessories, your graphics card if applicable, and a screwdriver. First, if you have one, install your graphics card. This is significantly easier to do while the system is outside the case. Make sure that the tab on the long PCI Express X16 slot is pushed down, then grab your graphics card. Pull off any protective covers on the card edge connector, then line it up with the slot. Giving it a gentle push until the retention clip is pushed into the locking position. Make sure it's in straight and you can't see any pins, because outside of the case, there isn't anything to hold it down. Once it's in, one trick to make it a little bit more stable is to use the motherboard box's flap to anchor the card in place, if it does have a flap that you can kind of slide it into. Next, grab your power supply cables. At a minimum, you'll need the 12...
Okay. I'm trying to turn my phone's light off. Don't kill my battery on me. What?
You can kind of slide it into. Next, grab your power supply cables. At a minimum, you'll need the 12-volt CPU connector, which is usually 8 pins, but sometimes 4. A 24-pin connector. And if you're running a GPU, you'll need as many connections as your GPU requires. Most won't.
This is what these ones are. This is the.
Flap that you can kind of slide it into. Next, grab your power supply cables. At a minimum, you'll need the 12-volt CPU connector, which is usually 8 pins, but sometimes 4. A 24-pin connector, and if you're running a GPU, you'll need as many connections, but sometimes 4. A 24-pin connector. And if you're running a GPU, you'll need as many connections as your GPU requires. Place if it does have a flap that you can kind
Okay,
of slide into.
I think
Next, grab your power
I'm
supply
getting
cables.
it.
At a minimum, you'll need the 12-volt CPU.
so the CPU is not this one. Where did I put the CPU cable?
need as many connections of 6 and 8 GPU report, a 24-pin connector, and if you're running a GPU, you'll need as many connections as your GPU requires.
Okay.
Wires. Most won't work without them. Expect to see a combination of 6 and 8 pin or 12 and 16 pin connectors on newer machines. Take special note, by the way, that GPU power connectors, even the ones that look similar, are not the same as the 8 pin for the motherboard. Do not force anything. Lining these up outside the case is easy. Make sure the tabs line up, then push them down until they clip into place. You also want to make sure the tabs line up, then force anything. Lining these up outside the case is easy. Make sure the tabs line up, then push them down until they clip into place. You also want to make sure that you press down a little bit more on them after you've clipped them in, just to make sure that they're seated properly. This is especially important for the ATX 12-volt high power connector, which can get a little spicy when it's not plugged in all the way. And this will be especially important later when it's inside the case. If your motherboard has and this will be especially important later when it's inside the case. If your motherboard has more than one 12-volt CPU connector, usually the one marked as 1 is the primary one that's actually required, but it's good practice to install all of them if you can. As 1 is the primary. If your motherboard has more than one 12-volt CPU, Grab your graphics card. Pull off any protective covers on the card edge connector, then line it up with the slate, and one does have only the 12-volt CPU connector, which is usually 8 pins, but sometimes 4, a 24-pin connector, and if you're running a GPU, you'll need as many connections as your GPU requires. Most won't work without them. Expect to see a combination of 6 and 8 pin, or 12 and 16 pin connectors on newer machines. Take special note, by the way, that GPU power connectors, even the ones that look similar, are not the same as the 8 pin for the motherboard. Do not force anything. Lining these up outside the case is easy. Make sure the tabs line up, then push them down until they clip into place. You also want to make sure that you press down a little bit more on them, then push them down until they clip into place. You also want to make sure that you press down a little bit more on them after you've clipped them in, just to make sure that they're seated properly. This is especially important for the ATX 12-volt high power connector, which can get a little spicy when it's not plugged in all the way. And this will be especially important later when it's inside the case. If your motherboard has more than one 12-volt CPU connector, usually the one marked as 1 is the primary one that's actually required, but it's good practice to install all of them if you can. These cables can often be split into 2 groups of 4 if, for example, your motherboard has an 8 and a 4-pin connector rather than 2 8-pins. With all that done,
Okay. Just want me to plug this one in. The other way, this is me. Because that has other connections on it. I'm looking for essential to be this way. Do I have 2 pin or 4 pin connectors? I do not believe I do. Yes, I do. No, I do not. Do not. No, no, no. I'll see if the box I have from my old computer's got them. Yes, it does. Okay. Okay.
Example, your motherboard has an 8 and a 4-pin connector rather than two 8-pins. With all that done, connect up. Well, your motherboard has an 8 and a 4-pin connector rather than two 8-pins. With all that done, connect up your keyboard and display, making sure, of course, to plug into your graphics card and not your motherboard if you have a graphics card installed. These cables can often be split into two groups. With all that done, connect up your keyboard and display.
Okay. You ready? Okay, let's see how close I can get to this outlet. Nope. Extension cord. Or power strip, actually. Yeah, I know where one is. I'm just going to steal it, Baba Stupid. Well, not really steal, since it's mine anyways, you know? Ugh. This is a bit of a... Okay. Power strip acquired. for each. Okay. Now I gotta open up these box of display money. It's whatever. It's whatever. Yeah, there's a power brick. Jeez. Jeez, guys, why didn't you tell me there was a power brick? I was confuzzled. Yo, looks easy. Okay. Okay. Ah. Okay.
Making sure, of course, to plug into your graphics card and not your motherboard if you have a graphics card installed. Then you can flip on the power switch on your power supply and... wait, display. Making sure connector rather than two 8-pins. With all that done, connect up your keyboard and display. Making sure, of course, to plug into your graphics card and not your motherboard if you have a graphics card installed. Then you can flip on the power switch on your power supply and... wait, where's the power button? About that. There isn't one. Not always, anyway. This is where the screwdriver comes in. Find the front panel header for your motherboard, often in the lower right corner.
Oh, baba.
And then find the pins labeled for power switch. What now? Stick the screwdriver in. Yes. Seriously. Your screwdriver doubles as a button. Who knew?
Okay.
Yes. Seriously. Your screwdriver doubles as a button. Who knew? And then find the pins labeled for power switch. What? Now.
Power switch, where do you go? I'm gonna need you later.
Stick the screwdriver in. Yes. Seriously. Your screwdriver.
Why can't I find the switch that I need?
Screwdriver doubles as a button. Who knew? Wow. What else can screwdrivers do? LTDstore.com? Maybe? Someday? Anyway, if you have a boot screen, mash the setup key, which is usually delete, until you get into the BIOS. Check to be sure that everything's been detected. All your memory, your CPU, your fans, and your M.2 SSDs should all be visible either on the main info page, in the system health section, or in a storage-related menu like NVMe configuration or SATA configuration. If you're using an empty water block, this is as far as you want to go. Your CPU is probably already getting toasty. However, for anyone else, it's worth making sure that your temperatures are okay here. Step 7. Pre-build test, aka definitely find it. Your graph is significantly easier to push down, then give it a gentle pins because it's a little bit more stable slided through, which is usually 8 connection of set G motherboard. Make sure a little bit important plugged in all the way. It has more than one 12, but it's good practice simple. Your keyboard start installed. Then you can flip on the power switch on your power supply and wait. Where's the power button? About that. There isn't one. Not always anyway. This is where the screwdriver comes in. Find the front panel header for your motherboard, often in the lower right corner.
What? Very cool. Which, well, I guess I'll keep watching more.
And then find the pins labeled for power switch. What now? Stick the screwdriver in. Yes. Seriously. Your screwdriver doubles as a button. Who knew? Wow. What else can screwdrivers do? LTDstore.com? Maybe? Someday? Anyway, if you have a boot screen, mash the setup key, which is usually delete, until you get into the BIOS. Check to be sure that everything's been detected. All your memory, your CPU, your fans, and your M.2 SSDs should all be visible either on the main info page, in the system health section, or in a storage-related menu like NVMe configuration or SATA configuration. If you're using an empty water block, this is as far as you want to go. Your CPU is probably already getting toasty. However, for anyone else, it's worth making sure that your temperatures are okay here. Let it sit powered on for a few minutes and see where the temperatures get to when it's warmed up a bit. Some CPUs will idle pretty hot in the BIOS regardless of the cooler, and that's normal. What you're looking for is temperatures to stabilize and for them to not get any better or worse by pushing down on the cooler. If they do change, that's an indication that your cooler may not be making proper contact with the CPU. So what you should do now is shut it down, pull off the cooler, check the pattern of your thermal compound to be sure that it's spread evenly, then repaste and try again.
But what if every novice builder's worst nightmare happens, and nothing shows up on the screen after powering it up? Thankfully, there are often ways to understand what's gone wrong. Some motherboards have LED displays that show a 2-character hexadecimal code that should help identify which part of the boot process failed, and you can look up what those mean in your manual or online. Often, another LED indicator somewhere on the motherboard is present, either instead of or alongside, that help make it even more clear. ASUS, for example, tends to put a kind of stoplight type of array of LEDs that show red to indicate CPU tests, orange to indicate memory tests, white to indicate storage, and green to indicate graphics. With these, you can tell at a glance exactly where the issue is, even if there's nothing on the screen. Other vendors have LEDs that light up each section of the motherboard as they're tested at startup, so check around your CPU socket, RAM slots, or graphics card to see if there's anything lit up. The most common cause of no video is an issue with the cable, either broken or low quality cables, or plugging it into the wrong port. It doesn't really matter where on the graphics card you plug it in, but if you plug it into the motherboard, especially for older AMD or Intel F-series systems without integrated graphics, you're not going to get anything. Failing that,
What do you mean? We're just gonna pull out these little plastic things. Yeah. Yep, okay. I see it now. That's where I plug it into, not where I had it. Okay, now let's give it a shot. Nothing is happening. Oh, maybe the monitors fell asleep. Hey, that would help. Nothing.
make sure your graphics card is fully inserted. Reseat if
I suppose that could be a thing that I do. Yep. Not just anybody.
you aren't sure. And do the same for memory. If you have more than one memory module, try removing all but one, and then if everything works, try adding them back one by one. If none of that helps, but the PC turns on, you may need to try reseating your CPU, and especially check to be sure that there are no bent pins and that there's no lint or anything in the socket that might prevent a good connection. It's rare these days, but some computers won't boot or stay on without the CPU fan header connected, so that's one more thing to try if the rest doesn't help.
If nothing happened at all when you pressed the power button, I'm sorry. The first thing you should check is that the motherboard is getting power. Usually, there will be an LED or two that turns on when you flip the power supply into the on position. Assuming, of course, you've plugged it into the wall. You checked that, right? Oh, wait. Okay, good. If there's still nothing, then turn off the power supply and make sure your cables are properly connected. The 24-pin connector can often split into a 20 and 4-pin connector for compatibility reasons, so it's possible that some or all of one part hasn't been fully inserted. Push the clip holding it into place and pull it out. Then make sure it's all lined up and try again. Same thing can happen with the 12-volt EPS connectors, so triple check those too. And of course, make sure they're all plugged into the proper power connection points on the power supply itself. Most modern power supplies should make it impossible to plug these things into the wrong connectors, but you never know. Failing all of that, there could be some compatibility reasons your system isn't firing. Some AMD motherboards in particular might require a BIOS update to enable support for certain generations of CPUs, or it might be too far forward and you need to roll it back for your generation of CPU. Just look it up in the motherboard manual. You may need to contact the store you bought it from or AMD directly to arrange to have that done. If none of that helps, then you'll need to do some more advanced troubleshooting, preferably with a different computer or sets of components. Check.
Ugh.
Check the LTT forums for more info there. Once you're satisfied that everything's powered on and working, flick off the power, disconnect everything, and then put it to the side. It's time to make your case.
It might help to lay down a blanket or a towel or something so you don't scratch up your case or your desk while you work with it. As a bonus, it'll reduce the friction of the feet so you can rotate it around more easily while working. Every case is going to be different in terms of layout, build quality, and cable management, but there are some general notes to keep in mind when prepping. First, take off your side panels and store them in a safe place. The box the case came in is a good candidate. Depending on your case, the side panels might need a screwdriver or have thumb screws if they're plastic or metal, or they might have side screws, or even be held in magnetically on a hinge if they're tempered glass, if they're fancy. With your case open, remove the hardware box if it's stored inside the chassis, and put it aside for now. If your motherboard comes with an I/O shield, you should install that now. Line up the I/O shield with the back of your motherboard to determine which orientation it should go in. The flat end faces towards the motherboard. Then align the I/O shield with the cutout in the rear of the case and snap it into place using one corner as an anchor. It may take a bit of force to get it in just right, and cheaper cases may flex when you do this and cause it to pop back out. But don't get discouraged. Keep at it until you're satisfied it's not going to pop out when you look at it the wrong way. Another thing you should do now is move any cables out of the way. Sometimes they'll be tied up with a twist tie or zip tie, but generally you want to get them on the other side of the case so you don't have to worry about pinching them or getting them trapped under the motherboard when it's installed. It also makes it much easier to cable manage later.
Now let's talk standoffs. Some cases will come with some or all of these pre-installed, and if not, everything you need will be in the hardware box that you removed earlier. They're essentially just extensions for the screw holes on the motherboard tray to prevent the motherboard from shorting out of the tray. And they screw in the same way that a normal screw would, just, without a screw head. You can check the hole pattern on your motherboard to determine where the standoffs should go, and which extra ones might need to be removed. Hand tightening these is enough to build, but I've run into issues disassembling systems that were only hand tight, where the standoff will come out instead of the motherboard screw. Just be careful if you do decide to tighten them with a 5mm hex socket driver, because cheaper cases will often just strip the threads or skip back out instead of just tightening down. If you're trying to remove one and you don't have an adapter or driver, or your fingers just aren't cutting it, then pliers can give you quite a bit more leverage, but this will damage its finish if that matters to you. A sacrificial paper towel or microfiber cloth can help mitigate this. You'll notice that there are more holes than there are standoffs. What's up with that? While there are standard layouts for these for each form factor, not every motherboard will use every mounting point, or some may use non-standard ones. While you don't strictly speaking need a standoff for every mount point on your motherboard, let's just say it's highly recommended and it's absolutely critical that there are no extras. A standoff placed where there isn't a mount point could short something out if you aren't careful. Or worse, it could cause your motherboard to flex and potentially break something if you screw the others in and the motherboard ends up flexing. Once you're satisfied, you can do a test fit. First, count the numbers of standoffs in the case and the holes in your motherboard. Watch out, some motherboards actually have holes that are hidden by cosmetic cover.
How do I turn the camera? Oh, here it is. Alright. So I got these that red spot, that's where I'm supposed to touch, right?
I can't really see what it says on the right there,
Yeah.
but yeah, it looks right.
Yeah, so
You hear it click.
yeah, when I turn the power supply on, which I just did, when I touch them, it makes a little click noise.
But nothing actually turns on.
Yeah, well, the screen turned off, but
Is anything spinning at all?
no, nothing's spinning. Nothing's on.
The power supply is on though.
Yeah, and it's plugged in.
Are you sure?
Yeah, the power strip's got the light on.
Power supply. Just try flipping our power supply and then try it again.
Okay.
transfers, I would just unplug the GPU for now, just because if it's not turning on, like just taking out like excess parts that you don't need for now would like help troubleshoot.
Okay.
So like I would just like just keep the GPU unplugged for now, and then just we'll just try to get it turned on.
Okay. So unplug the GPU from the motherboard and power.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so that is out. Hmm. Just trying to think. So, is there no power button on your case?
There's a power button on the case, yeah, but it's not. I don't have the GPU in the case currently, or the CPU or motherboard.
Hold on a second. You have the same motherboard, I think, that I do. So let's see. Give me 1 second here.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's the power.
Yeah.
Where do you hear the click when you do that?
I think it's coming from the power source when it makes a click.
Man, maybe your power supply is busted.
Well, that would suck. I mean, everything's brand new.
Yeah, no, I mean, that happens sometimes. Like, there's just nothing you can do about it when that happens. So, it kind of sucks because the only way to test that would be either A, I can bring my computer over at some time and we can try plugging in my power supply into your motherboard and see if that works, or, we actually just do it vice versa, where we plug your power supply into my computer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that because in case your power supply is faulty, I don't want to break anything else. Or B, you would just return that power supply to Amazon, claiming it's faulty, and then get a replacement power supply later, and then try plugging that in instead.
Okay.
Will you plug in your power supply to your motherboard?
What?
Can you just show me where you plug in your power supply to your motherboard? Like, just show me the ports.
Like here, and
I plugged it all the way, right? Like, you've ensured that there's no, that can't back go in any further?
I've half pushed down. I mean, let me take it off this box so it's not on a flexible surface. They seem to be in all the way.
So if you pull on it a bit, like, it doesn't come out at all?
I mean, there's a little bit of movement, but like it doesn't like come out.
know when your power supply's low, right?
I pushed them all in more.
And then just make sure they're all like clipped in.
Yeah, they're not pulling out.
Dang, that sucks. Yeah, my guess is either it's a faulty power supply, could just be a faulty cable as well, or it could possibly be a problem with the motherboard.
Okay.
I don't think it would be a problem with, like, if it was a problem with the motherboard, it wouldn't be a big problem, like, it wouldn't have broken any of your other parts, but
Yeah.
it could just be potentially a problem with the connector. One thing I would just try, though, is just, like, tip your case on its side, and you don't have to screw in the motherboard, but just place the motherboard inside of the case where it normally would go, and then plug in, like, the power button and everything like that, and then just try using the power button. Because it
Okay.
could be possible that it isn't working with the jump start method.
Alright. Yeah, so it makes a click sound when I use the power button too.
Okay, so that's not the problem then. Yeah. So yeah, so either, I mean, if you want, like, I can't come down today, but I could come down, or you can come up sometime. I mean, you can come up tonight if you want, maybe. And just bring all the stuff with you, and we can like do some troubleshooting on my place. Otherwise, it might just be easier just to try and get a new power supply from Amazon and just see if that helps.
Okay.
Might be more time though. That's up to you.
You want to send me your address, I guess?
You wanna come up tonight?
Yeah.
Alright, what if we do this? Because how late can you stay up? Because I kind of wanted to go get my workout in real quick, and that might take me a few hours.
I mean, I like to go to bed around like 8, but I can go to bed whenever, really.
That's not really gonna work. What about tomorrow night? What are you doing tomorrow night?
What do you mean? Like, what time are you thinking tomorrow night?
Would be probably around like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I should be free.
Okay, so yeah, if you wanted to, you can bring all of your stuff up tomorrow night. I can send my address to chat, and then we can just do some more troubleshooting on my place. Cause yeah, I mean it'd be easier to figure it out with like another power supply, which I have at least one I can use.
Yeah.
And then we just go from there.
All right.
Alright, that sucks though about that power supply though. Sorry that's happening.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll see you tomorrow, man.
All right. See ya. Oh, well, I suppose. Ouch. Well, I suppose I'll put everything away. build my computer, but something's not working. I got a different one. I don't know. Sure. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Yep. Bye. Alright. Yep. Bye. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Well, I guess that didn't work. So, I guess I'll be building the rest of it tomorrow off stream. I'll see you guys next time.